Let's talk Warne precision mounts for a second, shall we? It's been a while since I got my hands on some mounts, and I actually got 3 different ones in a row, but we're going to start with the Warne, and you'll see whatever comes next afterwards. The Warne precision mount, as the name implies, is made in the US. Does come as a cantilever setup or a non-cantilever setup. Comes in varying heights, and comes set up for 30, 34, or 35 millimeter tubes, as well as a 0 or 20 MOA cant. That is basically all you need to know. As far as everything else, we're going to start at the bottom like always and work our way up to the top. On the bottom, you see we have these 2 hard blocks over here that are going to interlock with your pick slots. You'll have one before, one in the middle, and one after, so it'll be engaging 3 different sections of pick rail, which I'm a big fan of. The more the merrier, especially for something that you want to set up and never have to worry about taking off, which, as you can clearly tell, this is set up for permanent fixturing. While we're over here, you can see that the fasteners come all the way through the other side, so you are getting full engagement of the threads on the bottom, which again is very nice to see. The fasteners down here are quite large, but one thing I do have a bit of a pet peeve with is the tool that you use for this is not the same as you'd use for the caps. I get it. I know why some manufacturers do that. Whenever you go up in thread size or diameter, it's going to change the size of the head and thus the tool that the head is using. But some manufacturers do go above and beyond and make sure that both the cross slide bolts for your mount and for your rings use the same size tool. That's something I really, really admire, because you get one tool in your bag, you leave it in your kit, and then if you ever need to make an adjustment or take it off for whatever reason, you only got one tool to contend with, not multiple. Anyway, pet peeve aside, you can see that the claw on this is one piece, which is nice, and you do have a decent amount of contact between the claws on either side, probably about 5/8 of an inch here to about 3/4 of an inch here. I do like seeing more, but at least again we have these 2 big solid blocks on the bottom. As far as the fit and finish, the finish passes the nail test. Nail does not rub off. It's very smooth. You can see a little bit of chatter marks here from where they ran an end mill. They ran too big of an end mill, or too long and too skinny of an end mill, and it just shattered as it's making that relief cut. But it's on the bottom. You'll never see it. Me being a former precision machinist, stuff like that is something that interests me, because I look for that sort of stuff. Same thing for the relief cut right over here. Again, that's where a tool either entered or exited, or a tool stopped, dwelled, and then came off. And it's a spring cut. So you're talking about probably an immeasurable amount of material was removed off of this, but it's just enough that when it's anodized like this, you can see it. As far as the rest of the mount, we have a very narrow rib down here in the middle. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I like a wide rib because I take a vernier and I put it in here usually, twist it up. I go parallel off of this bar, which personally I want it to be as wide as possible. So as wide as the bottom rib, and then it goes under the scope, like, pull off one off the shelf just so you can see what I'm talking about. So you use this flat and this flat real quick with a precision ground piece of equipment, a vernier, a gauge block if you got it, put it in, twist it, lock it up. It's usually like 99% perfect when you get it just right. Set that off to the side. As far as the rest of it, you could see on the caps, we have multiple mounts for different accessories. So you could set up probably for a pick rail or like an RMR mount for running an offset red dot, which is really nice to see, because for the price of, I think I already said, about 270-ish bucks for an American-made mount, it's not terrible. But for that amount of money, I want to see really nice add-ons like these accessory mount. So I'm very happy to see that. One thing we must talk about is the weight. On my scale, it's just over 6 ounces, 6.21 to be exact. And that doesn't seem too bad, but let's compare it against a spur, which is also set up for 34 millimeter. This is 34 millimeter, by the way, non-cant, but about the same amount of material. The spur comes in significantly heavier, almost 2 ounces heavier, but it does have a couple of different features. This is not ideally compatible against that, nor is an ADM Recon, because I don't have an offset cantilever one anymore. My brother's borrowing that long term. But let's put the base down, and then let's put a set of 34 millimeter clamshells down. You can see we're still 1.5-ish. Actually, no, I can't math this morning. 1.6 ounces heavier. But if you want to go even lighter, but spend a lot less money, keep in mind, ADMs are about 200-ish bucks. A spur like that's going to cost you $350, $400. This is $270. If you wanted to go super cheap, you can get this UTG, which comes in between 45 and 40 bucks. You can see that is quite a bit lighter, but you're not going to be comparing this directly to that, because if you're looking to spend $270, why are you looking at something that's basically 1/10 of the price? So despite the fact I didn't have a true one-to-one comparison against a direct competitor against this other than the UTG mount, the weight on this thing is more than acceptable. Let's check out the machining on where it counts, which is going to be inside the mount where the tube is going to sit. Let's see if this will focus. So you see those high polish spots right there? That probably is from a scope tube being in here after this thing is torqued down. You can see it on both sides of here and over here. They do look pretty even though, which isn't so bad. I don't know if there's a relief cut that I could see over here. Some manufacturers will put a small relief cut about an 1/8 inch down to a 1/16 inch down, just this way when the clamshell goes on top and you lock it down, it doesn't pinch. I do not see anything like that here. But other than that, the finish on it is pretty good. It's very smooth. I don't see any real imperfections. We could take a look at the threaded holes for the caps. They are not thread serted. Those look like they're just a little bit of Loctite on the top of the surface, which is giving the appearance of an insert being in there, but no, those are just aluminum threads, which is fine. I didn't see what material this is claimed to be made out of, but I wouldn't doubt it's 7075. It feels really dense. It feels really good in hand. So these holes are basically as good as you would ever hope for in aluminum. 7075 sometimes has the tensile strength of some steels, so I am not upset about that in the slightest. But they are not through holes, so let's say you accidentally shear one of these off. You can't just drill it straight through to the other side or come from the bottom and drill out. You have to try to attack it from the top, which could be a real pain in the balls. Real pain in the balls. Ask me how I know that one. As far as the cap itself, this one looks a little bit more like it's Swiss cheese because of all the accessory holes on it. Again, you could see the high polish spots where it probably made interference with a tube in the past. I have yet to mount a scope in this, but I will be doing so very soon. But again, it looks pretty even. There's no real off spots on it. These little high polish parts right here where the anodizings come off, that worries me a little bit. It seems like that might be a piece of aluminum that's actually coming down. I don't want to damage this ring, but I gotta check and see if I can come at it. It scrapes. I don't feel any dragging. I don't feel any high spots. A little bit of skookum came off. I don't know if that was off my razor blade. That's the one thing I don't like about through holes on the cap like that is if there's a slight burr there and you lock this down, that burr is now drilling into your scope tube, which could absolutely damage it. It does look like it's a little bit higher polish now that I ran the razor blades over. So I am not the biggest fan of that. Anyway, let me throw a scope in here, torque it down, and see if this mount is at least trued up enough on the base to reset itself quite easily once we have everything torqued down. I completely forgot to show you what it looks like when it's mounted to a pick rail. As you can see, it's got a very nice slim profile around the actual mount itself, so you shouldn't have to worry too much about this thing interfering with any of your bolt handles, your charging handles, your bolt, whatever. It shouldn't really interfere with anything. It's very slim and very even. I like how uniform it is one side to the next. As far as how a scope fits inside of it, well, I'm going to be using my Gen 2 Razor HD 4.5 to 27 because I haven't used this thing in a very long time, and it fits really snug. There's more play in the actual base itself as far as this base to my table as opposed to this base, but it fits beautifully. Really snug. There's no play in here. As far as how the cap goes on, a little bit of wiggle, but that's to be expected with any sort of horizontal mount like this. And just for posterity's sakes, You can see right there. Oh, and right there. Yep. Yep. That is not cool. That is not cool, Warne. These are high spots. Look at that. Look at the high polish on that now. Even up here at 12 o'clock. Over here on the side. Let's do this one more time. Look, I damaged my own gear for your entertainment. Clean it off with a microfiber towel. Take a look at the scope. This is for the bottom half of the ring. This is for the bottom half of the ring. Everything above that is pretty clean right now. One more time, I'll put the scope in here. You can see there's no wiggle and it rotates really easily. That goes to tell me that this mount itself is machined perfectly true because there's no snag points on this. But let's take, you know what? I'm gonna bring the other cap in, one that we haven't done this to. We could take a good before. And after. Look at that, right there. High spot, high spot. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ay ay ay. Ay ay ay. This is already a very disappointing performance because these caps should not be this bad. This should not be coming out of the factory like this. Very upset to see. But let's see if the mount itself at least is good enough to return to zero fairly well. Alrighty, we are behind the Gen 2 Razor HD 4.5 to 27 by 56 inside the Warne mount. I got this torqued up. Warne recommends 40 inch-pounds, starting with the second, the third, the first, and the fourth bolt in that order, and makes sense starting from the middle and working your way out. That is the ideal way of doing it. As you can see, we're perfectly lined up. I lined this up after I had torqued down the base. I have not loosened it up yet, so we're going to be loosening it up together. I'm going to be loosening it in the exact same order. The second bolt, the third bolt, the first, and then the fourth. I'm only going to do about a half a turn to a full turn. Let's see. Nope, that was not enough. I'll do just over a full turn. There we go. You can see it's nice and loose. Very good. You can hear it. Push it forward slightly. I'm just going to snug up these screws up first in that sequence. Last thing you want to do is go from not torqued to fully torqued, especially when you have multiple fasteners on a given item because you're going to warp something. So they're all snugged. They're now getting torqued in that same sequence, 2, 3, 1, 4. And you guys are going to see it before I do. That looks to be pretty good. Pretty good. Alrighty, let's loosen this up again, exact same sequence. If this one works out well, I'm going to leave it here because there's no sense in possibly damaging any of the fasteners on this mount by over-torquing them repeatedly. Well, not over-torquing them, but torquing them repeatedly. Pushing forward, second screw is squeezed, third, first, then fourth, torquing the first, or the second, third, first, and then fourth. Again, we are off by a full 1/10 of a mil. All right, the deciding factor will be the last and final mount. Again, this doesn't really matter all that much, truth be told, because this is designed to be set up as a permanent mount, obviously. So you might be saying to yourself, well, this doesn't really matter to me, it's not very relevant. It's relevant in proving to see if the scope mount was machined in such a way that it's repeatable. It would mean that it's got tighter tolerances, it's more exact, it's better. Second screw, third screw, first, and fourth. 40 inch-pounds across the board. And we're probably like just under a full 1/10 off. So it's a decent performance. It's not great. It's not the best, but it's definitely far and away from the worst. It's not a terrible mount, but I'm not worried so much about the repeatability here. But the burrs under the caps, that really is a buzzkill. We're going to see if it did any damage to my Razor HD in just a moment, so stay tuned for that. So as you just saw, it resets itself fairly well, more than fine enough, I'd say, because again, this is a permanent mount. You're going to set it up and probably never have to take it off. But if you do have to take it off, maybe you have to make a very minor adjustment. But I'm more curious to see if there's any damage to scope. It looks like got a little bit of marking over there, a little bit of marking over there, but no dents that I could feel. As far as under the cap, we see the exact same marks that we saw earlier. And it's really annoying that this is the case. You can see these high spots are clearly making contact with the scope, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be polished off like that where the anodizing had been removed. Honestly, I was expecting a little bit more for a near $300 American-made scope mount, but such is the case. Do I recommend it? Well, yes and no. The rest of it's really nicely made. It's finished really nicely, and I like all the accessory mounts on the top, but this is unacceptable, because this will cause a problem for you, even if it's just a little marring on your scope as far as the finish. But I've never seen it that bad before on any other mount, and I hope I never do again. Anyway, a huge thank you for the individual that sent this in for review. This is something I probably wouldn't have got my hands on otherwise, so thank you very much. And a huge thank you for all of you for watching. As always, see you again next time. And a huge thank you to my Patreon providers and my Subscribe subscribers. Without you, this truly wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to support my channel but don't want to join either of those, I completely understand. But you can still help by using my affiliate links in the description below, and or like, share, and subscribe as always. Again, thank you very much.